Alright, Black Goose TV family, was good with it? Mr. Positivity. Look, y'all know I don't usually be making videos this late. That's not really my thing, especially since it's Wednesday. I gotta get up mad early tomorrow for work. But shout out to Zen. He sent me through some information and some breaking news. It literally just came out, man. Dillian Whyte tested positive for the Oscar Rivas fight. You can't tell me that's not wild, right? That's wild. Like, when Zen sent me this through a text message and I read it, I was like, no way. No way. Not Dillian Whyte. Not Dillian Whyte. Not the dude who went on Big Baby Miller's Instagram when Big Baby Miller did a heartfelt apology saying, man, I'm sorry about testing positive. I messed up. I didn't look into the things I did. My bad. And the first thing I seen on Big Baby Miller's Instagram post when it comes to the comments, the response to his video was Dillian Whyte, top of the line. He said, you just a fat... I'm not even going to say the rest. It was something along those lines because I don't want to misquote what he said, but it was very disrespectful. So for a man like that to come at Big Baby Miller the way he did, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying what Big Baby Miller did was right or wrong, but to end up testing positive against potentially one of the hardest fights of your career, maybe besides AJ and possibly Joseph Parker. The thing is though, y'all got to realize something. The blueprint was out for AJ and Joseph Parker. When I mean the blueprint, excuse me, I don't mean the way, like, you know how to beat them, right? The blueprint of how to beat AJ and Joshua. But there was a lot of footage out there. There was a lot of film that you could study. There was a lot of things that you could look at and be like, okay, we're going to try and do this, 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 and that. Well, because of Oscar Rivas, everyone knew Rivas was solid. Everyone knew Rivas was a beast, an Olympian at one point. You know what I'm saying? He beat guys in the amateurs like Courrupt, like Andy Ruiz Jr. But possibly there was no footage. Now, I'm not alluding to anything. This is just what's coming to my mind at the moment. But let's just stick to the facts because that's what I'm about. And the facts is Dillian Whyte tested positive for a banned substance. Now, if there's one thing that first came to my mind is that doesn't happen a lot in the UK. Usually when someone tested positive for a banned substance, usually hearing about it happen over in the US of A, right? Well, all right, I'm right now on Talksport.com, right? And it says the headline, Dillian Whyte reportedly tests positive for banned substance. Eddie Hearn issued response. You know what makes me even sicker about this? It makes my stomach churn. Is he tested positive before the fight happened? Mr. Positivity, what are you saying? Well, let me get to it, right? I'm reading off of Talksport.com, so shout out to them. However, according to Boxing Scene, Whyte was informed 3 days prior to the bout that he tested positive for a banned substance in a UKAD test. Okay? The exact substance is currently unknown to media. It's claimed that his promoter Matchroom Boxing and the British Boxing Board of Control were also told of the situation, but the fight was allowed to take place regardless. Under British rules, the fighter has the right to an appeal, and no sanctions can be put in place by the BBC as UKAD don't recognize a breach in their protocols until the full adjudication process is complete. This can't take years to resolve, as we've seen with Tyson Fury. A lot of y'all think Tyson Fury was just popped back in the day for cocaine, but he was also popped for a banned substance. But, you know what I'm saying, people don't really talk about that because when you get popped over in the UK, and obviously there's a lot of media in the UK for boxing. There's a lot of media in the UK for, in US for boxing as well. But sometimes it doesn't cross paths. So people don't want to kind of get into the details of things for the most part. So the narrative of Tyson Fury when he popped back in the day is that it was on cocaine. But a lot of y'all don't know it was actually for a performance-enhancing drug as well. So, as things stand, Whyte is still licensed to box, and so his clash with Rivas was allowed to go ahead. Promoter Eddie Hearn issued the following response in which he did not deny his man had tested positive, but insisted he was allowed to fight on Saturday night. He tweeted further to reports, I can confirm that both Dillian Whyte and Oscar Rivas were subject to extensive VADA and UKAD testing for their bout. So VADA was involved for this fight. Very interesting. Both fighters were cleared to fight by both bodies and the BBC of C. So, like, the biggest thing for me right now, because obviously it's late at night, this is news to me, so I'm going to be a little bit more opinionated when it comes to this particular video, because it further shows the corruption not only in boxing, but how you can get away with certain things depending on where you fight. Okay, a lot of people want to sidestep this, or a lot of people want to act like this isn't real. But if you fight in certain countries, certain states, you know what I'm saying, certain regions of the world, it's not going to be the same rules as others. That's why when you're in the United States of America, wherever the fuck you want to call it, excuse my language, y'all, because you know I don't usually come at y'all like this, but it's late, so I'm just talking off the top of the dome, so respect to everybody. But there is more extensive drug testing when you come over and fight in the U.S. I'm not saying it's top notch. When it's top notch, then you put VADA in the mix, which VADA was involved here. But still, you have to understand, certain exemptions are allowed in the U.S. that is allowed in the U.K. Like this one particularly. If you test positive in the U.S. 3 days prior to the fight, that fight's not happening. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They you know what I'm saying? You won't have the New York Commission saying, oh well, we're not sure what this drug is, or we're not sure exactly if it's his fault, so we're gonna go ahead and let the fight continue. You know, they say you pop just like Big Baby Miller, and you out. But we're in the UK now. I'm not, don't make this into no country type thing. Please don't do that. What I'm saying is this is how it goes, all right? There's different rules depending on where you fight. And it just so happens in the UK, if you pop for a banned substance before the fight, if all parties agree to continue with the fight, that's what will happen. Where when it comes to the U.S., if you pop, that fight is done. It doesn't matter if the parties still want to fight. It doesn't matter what the case may be. It's like, nah, you messed up. You out. If we can't find a replacement, no fight's going to happen. If it's really soon, if it's like this, if it's 3 days prior to when it's happening, they're going to call it off. So what do y'all think about this, man? This is wild to me. And it shows, man, that boxing ain't no joke, man. There's really corruption in boxing, if you want to call it that, or it's just there's too many loopholes. But there's loopholes in everything, right? I also want to get at this too, man, when it comes to Dillian Whyte, man, because Dillian Whyte, I was very impressed by his performance. I was very impressed with what he did, and I'm actually a big fan of Dillian Whyte. So I hate that I had to see something like that. You know what I'm saying? I had to see that. I don't know, man. It just bugs me because Eddie Hearn too. Even Eddie Hearn himself, like when Big Baby, if y'all don't remember when Big Baby Miller popped positive, Eddie Hearn had so much disrespect toward that man. He said so many different things. You know what he's saying about Dillian Whyte right now? Well, we're gonna figure out. We're gonna see what happened. We're gonna see why he got popped. We're gonna see what the drug was, and we're gonna see if it's actually his fault. You know what I'm saying? You want to know why that's happening? It's because Dillian Whyte is signed to Matchroom Boxing. Oh, well, what about Big Baby Miller? He was signed to him too. You got to understand, when it comes to Big Baby Miller, he has a very interesting relationship when it comes to them. Because as much as Dillian Whyte is his own man, Big Baby Miller is on a whole nother level when it comes to his own man. Listen to me. I'm not talking about him as a person. I'm talking about business-wise, how they came up. Big Baby Miller is the epitome of doing it himself, and people finally notice him when the time comes. Dillian Whyte is also the epitome of that. Excuse me. But you have to understand, he is based out of UK. He's a UK star, so you know what I'm saying? Eddie Hearn's going to... Look, I'm not even going to say that because I don't want to put out any narratives that ain't true. But you just got to have to understand right now, I just hate seeing inconsistency, especially in someone as important as Eddie Hearn when it comes to this boxing community, where you can basically try and defend someone like Dillian Whyte, but when Big Baby Miller got popped, you basically shit on his name. You know what I'm saying? Be like, oh, I'm so disappointed. All types of negativity towards his way. It's very amazing to me. But what do y'all think about this? What do y'all think about the fact that he got popped 3 days before the fight? He was still allowed to fight. He's still sanctioned. No one took away his boxing license like they did Big Baby Miller. No one took that away. All that is still active. And they're like, we just have to figure out at the end of the day whose fault it is, what drug it is, and if it actually deserves a suspension. What do you guys think about that? Do you like that process better than the U.S. process, where it's basically like, hey, you got popped, you guilty, we got to, no matter if it's your fault or if it's not your fault, at the end of the day, it was in your system, so you have to be suspended. What do you guys think about that? I do think ultimately Dillian Whyte will be suspended for a short amount of time, but still, man, the fact that he was still able to fight and the fact that he won, boxing is a crazy sport. It is a crazy sport, man. And there's so many politics in it. When you hear something like this, it just makes you be like, man, I'm the biggest fan of boxing. I love boxing, but it's like, who dictates and controls these narratives? You know what I'm saying? Who makes these rules? You know what I'm saying? Why is it for some people, certain rules applies to them, and then for other people, it doesn't apply to them? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then on top of that, how you think Eddie Hearn's feeling? AJ just took a loss. You know what I'm saying? Upset of the year. That was his man's. That was his cash cow. Dillian Whyte. You know what I'm saying? That was his next big thing. You know what I'm saying? Just became the WBC mandatory. Was going to get the winner of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. He had the belt. He had the interim belt. And still does. They didn't strip him yet. They didn't strip him. That's another crazy thing, too. Tested positive. They still haven't stripped him. So, what do y'all think about all this, man? Obviously, I might rub people the wrong way because I'm being very opinionated. I'm going to be 100 with y'all. I'm very opinionated on this because I hate when I see things like this. I wouldn't feel this way if literally 3 months ago when Big Baby Miller tested positive, Dillian Whyte wasn't giving him all the shits in the world. I wouldn't feel this way if Dillian Whyte didn't do that. I'd be like, man, this is unfortunate. I hope the best for my dog. Dillian Whyte, he's a true competitor. He's a beast. And you know what I'm saying? You don't know what happens. But because he shitted on Big Baby Miller when he went through his little debacle, the only thing I can do at this point is be like, yo, bruh. Hypocrisy at its finest. Boxing is a dirty game. I wish it wasn't. But the fact that he tested positive 3 days before and was still allowed to fight, man, that's the wildest thing in the world to me. It might not be wild to y'all, but the way I think about it, I'm like, that man on the other side of that ring, the one who's fighting him, man, he's putting his life on the line. And some may see, well, like, they both on the juice. Hey, man, I'm not worried about speculation, what ifs. All I'm worried about is what's been reported, what's been put out there. And Dillian Whyte tested positive. Positive! 3 days before the fight! And was still allowed to fight that man. I ain't saying nothing. But why is Eddie Hearn pushing so much for that rematch between AJ and Ruiz, to be in the UK? And see, y'all think it's all about just contract signed, right? It seems fair because he signed the contract. There's more to it than that, y'all. There's more to it. This shit is corrupt. And it's fucked up. Excuse my language, y'all, but this is fucked up. There's another man in that ring that could have cost him his life. You know what I'm saying? Someone just passed away this past weekend from this sport. But you got sanctioning bodies that are willing to allow fighters to fight on banned substances. Man. Black Goose TV, y'all stay up, man. This is wrong. This is wrong.